So again, welcome to the Bridge the Gap webinar from Connect Solutions, how to leverage a 32-bit app in a 64-bit world. My name is Harpal Gill, and I'm an SVP at Connect Solutions, and I'm joined by my colleague Nick Pizzatola, Product Manager. So today we're going to cover what is the issue, talk about bitness mismatch, our 64-bit bridge. We'll take a look at some case studies where some customers have leveraged this bridging technology, and then we'll touch a little bit on who is Connex, and we'll go to Q&A. So at this point, I'd like to turn to my colleague Nick, and Nick's going to talk about the issue. Nick?
Hey, thanks, Harpal. So what is the issue? We've tried to identify this problem with 32-bit to 64-bit mismatching. And what we've noticed is that a lot of companies still use 32-bit applications that are mission critical. So as we move forward towards an increasingly 64-bit world, the challenge becomes how do we use these apps not only to keep them working, but up to the performance standards of their 64-bit counterparts. If you look here, we have a processing timeline showing the evolution of processing power, starting out in 1951 with the MIT Whirlwind 1 computer, which was the first one, and it used a 16-bit, all the way up to now and what we're seeing. But the most important thing for this is, if you look over on the right, is 2009, which was when 64-bit became widely adopted. It had been used in the past. I mean, you can even go back pretty far, and there are some supercomputers that use 64-bit, but 2009 is when it really became widely adopted and became the industry standard in all new application development, and was the benchmark in processing power. So as we saw in the timeline, any company that's been around for more than 5 years will have 32-bit apps in their infrastructure. And as you can see by these search results, this is not a niche or unique issue. This is something that most companies will either have to face now or look at down the road. So the term we came up with to describe this issue is bitness mismatch, which is basically just an issue with using 32-bit apps in 64-bit environments. We've seen a lot of customers come to us because they've upgraded their infrastructure to 64-bit, and they want to take it because they want to take advantage of all the available features. However, this poses a problem for custom apps and other existing apps that are 32-bit that are still very much used. An example would be those who use applications built on databases no longer supported, such as FoxPro or KnowledgeMan, but need to use them in their current environment, which may be 64-bit. As we see here, this is a Microsoft blog, and they talk about this issue. And the proposed solution they give for a bitness mismatch is to recompile or rebuild the application. However, rebuilding is less than ideal as it takes much more time and money, and it's just really not the best way to solve this issue. So what we're going to do now is Harpal's going to go over an alternative solution that we can provide for 32 to 64 bitness mismatch. Harpal?
Thank you, Nick. That was great. It's good to understand what the issue is. And now we'll take a look at an alternative solution, the Connect 64-bit bridge, how to leverage 32-bit apps in a 64-bit world. So if we think of a traditional or a current environment that's 32-bit, we've got a 32-bit application connects. I'm sitting on a client talking to a 32-bit data source. That was great in the traditional connection. In today's world, we've now got 64-bit, as Nick pointed out, very prevalent since 2009. And we've got a lot of different applications, Excel, different BI applications, different tools that are all 64-bit, running in a 64-bit world, and you still have some mission critical applications or other business applications that are running on a 32-bit data source. So how do they communicate with each other? Well, they can't because of the bitness mismatches we talked about. That's where the Connect's 32-bit bridge, 64-bit bridge will help bridge the gap. That's the example there of the bridge. So let's drill into it a little bit more. So again, we've got most organizations now running 64-bit apps on their 64-bit machines in-house, and they've got some of these, I'll call them legacy or existing mission-critical systems of record, 32-bit applications with 32-bit data sources, and these don't communicate to each other because of the bitness mismatch. So what Connects does is we bridge it with our Connect's 32-bit bridge. The bridge allows 64-bit apps via ODBC or OLEDB to talk to those 32-bit applications. It basically bridges the bitness mismatch. It can override that or basically takes away that issue and makes it simple for those applications to now communicate seamlessly with each other. Another example of a bitness mismatch is with linked servers. So the latest version, the latest SQL Server is 64-bit only, which means that SQL Server linked servers only work with 64-bit ODBC drivers. Connects bridges the gap so it's possible to access 32-bit databases, i.e. old 32-bit versions of SQL Server, FoxPro, Access, and other data sources that do not have a 64-bit ODBC driver. So in this diagram here, you can see that we've got the Connect's bridge assisting those linked servers to connect to older data sources. At this point, what we're going to do is I'm going to turn it back to Nick, and he's going to take us through 3 different case studies where the bitness mismatch and a linked server issue were all prevalent, and we were able to address and help them. Nick, why don't you take us on a tour of some customers and how they were able to overcome these bitness mismatches?
Yeah, so we have 3 different examples of customers that have had this same basic problem of a 32 to 64 bitness mismatch. And I mean, as we know, not one solution isn't the same for everybody. I mean, everyone has their own unique issue. And so what this shows is 3 companies that needed this bridge, but they each have their own unique flavor and, specific thing that they needed. So the first thing we're going to start out with is CRS Data, and they're a computer processing and data preparation service company that does a lot of work with real estate and analytics for that. They work with what are called RETs, which are Real Estate Transaction Standard. And it's a commonly spoken language by systems that handle real estate info, such as multiple listing services. And recently, CRS decided it was time to retire their old server that handled the importing of their listings into their data set. But they had an issue with their ODBC driver because it lacked the metadata of their traditional ODBC driver that their original ODBC driver connection would have. So in this diagram, you see what we did here was we helped CRS upgrade from their old 32-bit version of SQL Server because they had moved to SQL Server 2012 R2, which is only 64-bit. They have an extensive use of a 32-bit ODBC driver to access the RETS data. However, a 64-bit version did not exist. So they used our bridge technology you see there in the middle to access the 32-bit RETS ODBC driver from SQL Server, their previous version, to SQL Server 2012 R2. So the second thing we're going to look at is a metal recycling company, and And they're a small recycling business that collects large amounts of data in FoxPro, and they use Excel for reporting and modeling. And what we see here was they had an issue with, because they had such large amounts of data, the 64 version of Excel wouldn't take the large amounts in it because they were getting it from an unsupported FoxPro database. So what we helped them with was, as you see here on the left, was the large amount of data that they're pulling into the Visual FoxPro database, and they didn't have an ODBC connector that would work, and so they used our bridge so that they could get full functionality from the data they're getting through FoxPro, and full functionality also in Excel to get the whole data set to be visualized and used in various parts of the business. And the last one we're going to look at is a manufacturing company, and they needed to replicate RMS data in SQL Server, and they used link servers for supply chain needs and created a data warehouse also. So what we see here on the left is they got the RMS database, and they were using a 32-bit version of SQL Server with DTS packages to replicate the RMS data to SQL Server via link servers. But upgrading to SQL Server 2012 R2 would have required them to rewrite the DTS packages, similar to what Microsoft showed as a possible solution that we looked at earlier in their blog. But they had to rewrite the packages as SSIS packages, and instead they used DataSync to replicate the packages, as we see over here on the right, which with the added benefit of our CDC, or Change Data Capture, which is not supported in SSIS. The link servers were easy to move forward. They used the software to ship via both FedEx and UPS using Connect's DB adapter to get to shipping information that is stored in their RMS system. So yeah, those are the basic, different case studies we came up with. There's obviously many different versions and unique case studies we could have done, but we felt that these ones were well indicative of kind of a majority of customer problems. So we're going to move over now to Harpal, who's going to go over Connect solutions and talk about some other solutions we have and products you can use once your bitness mismatch solution is taken care of.
Thanks, Nick. Well, it's always good to see how the solution actually works in real life. It's great to understand what the issue is and see the Connect's 32-bit bridge, but how would you actually apply that in real life? And so it's nice to see 3 different examples of real life applications and how they were able to leverage the Connect's 32-bit bridge to continue working and driving value out of their older applications. So I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about Connect Solutions. Connect Solutions has been developing solutions since 1989. We're founded and based in Redmond, Washington. And the first example or first version of Connect's software was actually a simple API that enabled folks to get access to the RMS database on an OpenVMS platform, for those that remember the OpenVMS platform. Today, we have over 3,200 customers in 40 countries, and we focus on 2 different areas: data access and data movement. Connect has strategic alliances with companies like Software AG, Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, SAP, and many, many more. Connect's product has evolved from that API on that DEC platform to a Windows, Unix, Linux-based SQL engine for mainframe, legacy, non-relational, relational, desktop, cloud, big data, and in-memory data sources. If that sounded like a lot, it's because we do cover a lot of different data sources. Connex focuses on providing access to data regardless of where it physically resides. And we're a leading provider of data access, data virtualization, data integration, data warehousing, and data replication. Here you can see some of the 150 different data sources we support today. Again, we see a number of non-relational, relational, desktop, cloud, big data, and memory, all different types of platforms. As part of this data source, data connectivity, next slide please. Our Connex database adapter allows you not only to connect to those 150 data sources, but we can also do a data virtualization, which provides a single metadata model that spans all enterprise data sources. Imagine you have 5, 10, 12 different databases in your environment, and you want to consume them as a single data source and be able to write SQL queries or consume them with a BI tool or Excel. We can enable that with our Connex database adapter. Our Excel add-in, we actually create a Connex menu item within Excel that enables you to have quick two-click access to all of the 150 databases we support. KPI Sync is our streaming analytics solution that provides business metrics to mobile devices, Android, iOS, Windows, both phones and tablets in real time. And then we have a couple of data movement tools. Data Sync, our ETL tool, and Change Data Capture tool, this solution is designed to easily move data from any mainframe, relational, non-relational, all of the 150 data sources we support to any data source. With our Data Sync tool, we also have an integration to SSIS. As we saw, we can help folks with linked servers and some different technologies there. Instant DB Sync provides real-time data synchronization from SQL Server and other data sources to any relational data source in real time. At this point, I'd like to switch over, open up to Q&A, and if there's any questions.
Yeah, and we have a few more coming in, so what we'll do is we'll compile all the questions that came in, give them proper answers, and email them back to you guys with a recording as well of this presentation. So yeah, thanks again for joining us. We'd love to hear from you, and have a great day.
Thank you.